Today my adventure begins right here off of Business Highway 74, close to the town of Maxton, North Carolina. It's going to be a small town vlog today. Look at this old abandoned, looks like maybe a factory at one time. Looks like nature is beginning to take that building back, that is for sure. Should be a fun day today. Good morning, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Hitchhiking Yeti here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really excited to do a little filming today. There's a couple of towns here close by. Maxton, Laurinburg. These two towns have something in common. They both have pretty high poverty rates. Have very similar median age. Very different population numbers and very different crime numbers. One town has little to no crime. The other town has very high crime. So since the poverty rates are so high here, and I'm going to get into the numbers as we enter the towns, we talk a little bit about the early beginnings of the town, a little bit about the history, look at some of the downtown area. But since the poverty rate is so high, I probably will take a little extra time to visit the neighborhoods surrounding the downtown area just to see if there's any kind of abandonment like home fronts and things like that. That is my plan today. I appreciate you coming along with me. If you have a coffee in hand, cheers. It's getting a little cold. I bought this about 30 minutes ago. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. Wow, it's beautiful out here. It's going to be a good one. Welcome to historic Maxton, North Carolina. A good place to live, it says. Welcome to historic Maxton. Yeah, established in 1874. It's a good way to start it. Now that place right there is definitely a little grown up. As you can see, you can just barely see the house and the driveway is pretty much abandoned. And that place right there looks to be pretty much abandoned as well. Wow, look at this property. My gosh, that is awesome. I mean, the overhang of the porch here is not in great shape. But nonetheless, that is amazing. I love that house. Let's see if we can kind of turn and get out front here. Look at that. But it really is rough for wear. Look at the roof up there. Here. And this old home here is just pretty much boarded up, abandoned. Nothing going on here. Well, I think it's fair to say not everybody here is living in poverty, because that right there is a nice home. That is beautiful. These people have a lot of stuff. Got boats, cars. All right, I think I'm going to head on in the downtown area now. Got a little taste of what some of the neighborhoods looks like. Let's go see what downtown Maxton has to offer now. Okay, so this here is the United States Post Office here in Maxton, North Carolina. Zip code 28364. Just to give you a little population breakdown, there's 2,668 folks that calls Maxton, North Carolina home. The median age here is 39. And I wanted to stop right here because look at this house, this property here. And anytime I see a town with a high poverty rate, there's a good chance you're going to see some of this kind of stuff. That is an amazing home, isn't it? I mean, I know it is very rough for wear, and aesthetically it's beautiful. I love like the architecture and the build. This big porch, very southern, very, very cool, and very common for this part of the state. When you go to some of these old towns down here, you'll see homes very similar to this. And almost directly across the street from that old homestead is this one. This was an amazing home at one time. Look at that up there. That is pretty neat. I wonder if that's off a bedroom at that balcony right there. All that peel and paint up there. There's something about old abandonment that has always fascinated me. There is I don't know, I always think about like back in the day, 50, 60 years ago, when this place was beautiful and there was maybe a family living here and they had Christmases together and all that type of stuff. And now you look at it and it's all grown up. Nature is taken back over. I mean, everything on this sidewalk is just kind of unkept. Look how grown up everything is. And this house right here, whatever it was, a house or a business or whatnot, but it's not as in bad a shape. But looking at the yard and whatever this was, maybe it was a business, you see like a little parking lot right over here, or parking area possibly, or maybe it was another place that's been removed, demolished. Not sure, not from these parts, so I don't really know. But this place don't look as bad. Looks like they got a patch up there on the roof. Maybe the roof's been leaking. All right, I'm gonna carry on and move on into the downtown area now and check out the storefronts. Okay, so I made it to the downtown area. I'm right here on the corner of MLK Street and North Patterson Street, which this is Business Highway 74. I think they just renamed it MLK, Martin Luther King Highway. And we're just gonna kind of walk right down through here and talk a little bit about the town history. So Maxton is a small town here in southeastern North Carolina with deep Scottish and Native American roots. The area was first settled in the late 1700s along the Shoehill Creek and the Lumber River by the Scottish Highland immigrants and other settlers moving inland from the Cape Fear region. And they have a Chinese restaurant here. You can pretty much always find some type of a Chinese restaurant when you come to these little small towns like this in the southeast. I don't know what it is, but yeah. And it seems like they're always got the name King in it. I think that place might still be open, who knows. But this right here is an interesting storefront. This medical supply store, now it's abandoned, ain't here no more. But notice the name, Shoehill. And that's pretty interesting because that gets me on to the next topic about the town. It's a nice little segue. This was a town with several names. So how it all started here is the first name of this town, this area, was called Shoehill. And it was actually incorporated in 1874. And then it was named Tilden, named after presidential candidate Samuel J. Tilden. And then it went back to Shoehill, and then finally it became Maxton in 1887. And the name Maxton was chosen to honor the area's many Scottish families that live here in the area, whose surnames begin with either Mac, M-A-C, or Mick, M-C. And speaking of Scottish immigrants, notice the high school mascot up there. He's a Scottish warrior. Look at that, Scotland High School. Say they definitely celebrate their Scottish history here in the area. This is another abandoned storefront. This whole building over here looks to be pretty much abandoned. Nothing going on there. As you can see, this one here has the chains on the door, even though they're not really chained up, but all boarded up, no business. So we walk along here. This is called the A&B Bargains, and that looks to be abandoned. So there is a lot of abandonment here in this town. That is for sure. As I'm making my way down the street, it's very sad here. Bars on the windows at this store. As we look inside, look at the weeping ceiling fan up there. When you see a ceiling fan like that from like heat and moisture, yeah, these windows has been broken for quite some time. And it looks like back here in the back of the store, there's definitely some damage to the roof. It has actually fallen in on itself. Look at this restaurant right here. It's called Bill's Place. That big hamburger and hot dog. This old retro Pepsi sign up here, and you can barely read Bill's Place on that. It's so faded, sun bleached. I know when I originally entered the town area, I noticed they do have a train depot here. So I want to go check that out, because anytime you have a small town like this, most of the time they grew up because they were railroad towns, and that would be correct for the town of Maxton also. Well, that's nice. I got a little park over here and a little fountain. Maybe we can kind of walk across there and check that out first. Okay, and this here is kind of like a military memory garden. Carolina Military Academy, 1962 to 1972. Have some benches out here that were donated. Here on the back side, we have some veterans, Marine, U.S. Army, for their sacrifice in Vietnam. All right, so we've been walking along checking out some of the storefronts here, and got this neat little military like memory garden. Right over there's Bill's Place. Now I want to cross the railroad tracks, but I want to talk a little bit about the railroad boom first. And I think to do that, I need to go over here and show you the old train depot. This right over there with the blue tarps on the roof. That's where we're headed next. We're going to talk about the railroad history. So Maxton is a railroad town. It grew because of the railroad. A depot was established here in 1862 on the Wilmington and Charlotte and Rutherford Railroad line. And the town became a major shipping center for items like cotton, tobacco, corn, timber, turpentine, and naval stores. By the early 1900s, Maxton was one of the most important railroad and agricultural market towns here in this region. So the Maxton Depot is also known as the Maxton Railroad Station or the Atlantic Coastline Depot. This place is a 1908 built brick passenger station. And it's got a lot of tarp on the roof of this place. And there's pieces of the tarp, which is like all windblown from storms and stuff, kind of littered all over the ground here. And from a distance, I could see like this blue glow on the ground. It looked like somebody had painted over here something blue, but no, it's just pieces of the shredded up carcass of the tarp. So now let's take a look at demographics here. White is 14.54%. Black is 66.26%. Asian is 0.19%. American Indian is 17.83%. And mixed race is 1.19%. And then we'll look at the income index. Income per capita here is $22,800. The median household income here is $34,535, which is well below the North Carolina and national for both of those stats. That is very low. And then when we scroll down a bit, this is the big number. The poverty level here in Maxton is 42.2%. Look how that compares to the average of North Carolina at 16.8 and the national at 15.1. Then we're going to look at crime. Crime here in Maxton is really not a big problem. Only about 1.2 people out of 1,000 will experience a crime here. That is 1,229 of 100,000 people. So that is a really good average. That is well below the North Carolina and the national average. When we look at that in a percentage, you are 42% below the national average on total crime, and you are 34% below the national average on violent crime, and 44% below on property crime, lower than the national average. And right here is the old Maxton Supply Hardware store. I bet that place there has sold many goods out of it over its lifetime. And check out this building right here on this corner. And that fantastic clock up there at the top. Now, unfortunately, that clock is not correct. It's saying it's about 7:43 or 7:44, but it's actually about 15 after 8 right now, so the clock is not working. And this building right here today is actually the town hall, but it used to be a bank, I do believe. And we're going to walk over there and check it out, and I'm going to show you why I think it's a bank, or it used to be a bank. So as you can see right here on the front of the building, it does say Maxton Town Hall. That's what it says on Google Maps. But when you look out front, right here at the front door, right there it says Bank of Robeson. And right here next to the bank is an old Sundew gas station, quick stop and grill. See, all the gas pumps have been removed. The old storefront is shades or the blinds are being pulled down. Nothing really happening. Looks like we got this old barber shop right here on this little side street. So this small little barber shop right here was called Paul's Barber Shop. Don't even think it's open anymore. And I know these stores like next door to it are long been closed down. As you can see, like vines and stuff growing out of that window and creeping back up in that window pane up there. No ceiling. And right next to it is another store that's been completely gutted, and the vegetation has just taken back over. Completely wrecked, and these stores are just boarded up. Nothing happening. Maxton has a lot of abandoned storefronts. It's crazy how this works. I mean, the roof is gone. Nothing left. So before we leave this area, I do want to tell you a little story, talk to you a little bit about something that happened here back in 1958 close by. And I'm talking about the Battle of Hayes Pond. Perhaps the most famous event in Maxton's history occurred on January 18th of 1958. After the Ku Klux Klan attempted to intimidate the local Lumbee tribe family, hundreds of members of the Lumbee tribe confronted the Klan rally near Maxton. The Lumbee dispersed the gathering, seized the Klan's public address equipment, and drove the Klansmen away. The incident became known as the Battle of Hayes Pond and received national attention. It remains one of the most celebrated moments in the Lumbee tribe's history. And that all happened right here in this area, Maxton, North Carolina. All right, so that is going to pretty much wrap it up for the downtown Maxton area. And we're going to make our way over to Laurinburg next. But I do want to tell you that we're going to make a little pit stop before we go, because I want to go show you something that has like a World War II connection to it. And I'm talking about the Laurinburg Maxton Army Base, which it opened in 1942. And it was a training ground for thousands of glider pilots and airborne troops during World War II. Soldiers who trained there later participated in major operations, including D-Day invasion of Normandy. We're going to check that out. I know where it is. I've actually did a video at this place before. It took me 2 attempts to make it good, but I finally got it, and I will tell you about that once we get there. So let's head in that direction. Okay, I made it over here to the Laurinburg Maxton airstrip. You see right behind me, you see these airplanes? Well, these airplanes are not functioning planes no more. All these airplanes are kind of, you know, they put them out to pasture. The motors or the jet engines on them have been removed. They're just abandoned now. They just set out here like on this old airstrip. And I think the airstrip they actually set on, nothing's really happening. But yeah, man, it's wild, man, to come out here and see these old planes. I actually did a vlog a couple years ago about this, and it was pretty fascinating. It was pretty wild to get up close and personal and see these planes. Matter of fact, this one right here, this gray and like red one, that is a Northwest plane. And it used to be, when I was here and did my video, it was over here next to this other one. This, I think that's an old American airline, possibly. I can't remember exactly. In my video, I actually tell you which plane is what, and give you a little history about it, of what kind of plane it is. But yeah, this is really an awesome little spot right here. Somebody's out over there riding either an ATV or a dirt bike along the path that I walked to get out to those planes. But I just wanted to show you this spot. A lot of people don't even know this is here. But it's right off of Interstate 74, right between Maxton and Laurinburg, North Carolina. And there's more planes even back over here in this area, which I never got to those because I didn't want to trespass onto the base itself. You know, other people have in the past, but I wasn't going to do that. And matter of fact, even over there on the main runway where they actually use that one, there's an old plane over there, jet airliner, at least back in that time, and they was like in the process of taking the wings off of it and doing stuff like that. But I was here in the area. I will definitely link down in the description below my vlog about these planes. If you would like to watch it, you can definitely check it out. It's a few years ago. Things have changed since then, but back in the day, that was a cool little adventure that day. Okay, let's go on to our next town. Go check out Laurinburg. Okay, as we look across the cornfields here, it's a little bit closer look at the planes here. We're looking at the old, I guess that's the Northwest plane, the booty of it. But that there is the Laurinburg Maxton Airport, old Army base. Pretty cool. All right, let's continue on. Okay, so I'm just driving down Highway 74 here toward Laurinburg, and look at this old place. It's called the Game Room. And that is some abandonment. And that was smart. I love that. Look at the room. It's got the 2 8-balls, like if you're playing pool for the O's. That's nice. That was cool. Just a row of abandoned buildings here from yesteryear. And look at that. I wonder if Lone Star and Barf knows where their vehicle is at. Little Spaceballs reference there. Lone Star. I think Dark Helmet got the better of the two. Okay, so right here off of Highway 74 is this old abandoned store, whatever this used to be, not really sure. But it is completely covered in growth. Trees aline the whole side of this building. right here. Got a little mailbox out here still that you can barely even see. But look at how the trees have grown up along the side of this store. There's a little home. That's a very small little house right there. Wow. Look at that one. Totally overtaken by growth and greenery. So another home is just pretty much completely boarded up except the front door is open. That's interesting. Okay, and I've made my way into the downtown area of Laurinburg, North Carolina, and this is what it looks like. And even though you don't see like a lot of cars lining the streets, this town is home to 15,444 souls with a median age of 38.6. That's a pretty healthy age for a town. So Laurinburg is the county seat of Scotland County and is one of North Carolina's most historically Scottish communities. The town traces its beginnings to around 1785 when Scottish Highland settlers, much like Maxton and other families, established homes here in the area after the American Revolutionary War. The town was originally spelled with an H on the end of it, Laurinburg, named after the prominent McLaurin family, before the spelling was simplified to just Laurinburg with a G. Did not know that. It's kind of interesting when you walk through a town and you see litter on the sidewalks, but yet right there next to it where the litter is, you're seeing a trash can. And it's got a lid on it, so I know the wind didn't blow it out. So as we walk through town, I guess I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the origins of the town and how the railroad was involved. Laurinburg remained a small settlement through the early 1800s. In 1840, it consisted of only a few buildings, a store, a saloon. That was about it. The growth really started to accelerate though after a private school was founded here in 1852, and more importantly, when the Wilmington, Charlotte, and Rutherford Railroad reached the town. The first train arrived around 1861, transforming Laurinburg into an important transportation and trade center. Wow, look up there at the top of that old brick building. Some kind of ghost sign up there. Don't know what that used to say. I do make out the word shop, but can't really figure out what else was there. It's pretty bad shape. So let's talk a little bit about the Civil War era. During the Civil War, railroad shops were moved here to Laurinburg because they were believed to be safer from Union attacks. However, in March 1865, Union forces entered the town, burned down the railroad depot and the temporary railroad facilities. The railroad infrastructure was rebuilt after the war and helped the community recover from all of the destruction from the Union attack. And my goodness, I mean, it's like every store I walk past looks like this. So many of them are just dormant. And even over here, I mean, the florist looks to be open and in good shape. Maybe the Bell House Beauty, possibly. These other ones, they look abandoned. This one right here across the road with this little awning, this little overhang looks to be abandoned also. Maybe the Honey Hole Bar down there might be functional or operational maybe. So some other really neat kind of history about this town is Laurinburg was officially incorporated in 1877. And in 1899, the eastern portion of Richmond County was separated to form Scotland County, with Laurinburg being chosen to be the county seat. And the first courthouse was completed here in 1901. And speaking of the beginnings of the town and being incorporated and all that good stuff, check out this mural. That is nice. Laurinburg. And you know, earlier we was talking about how the spelling back in the day had an H on the end of it, and as you can see today, they just put the G. But man, that's really beautiful. And that looks like a beginnings of a day right there. You got the town, you got some farming going on, beautiful lush trees, water towers off in the distance, and a beautiful North Carolina sunrise. It says deeply rooted. Laurinburg, deeply rooted. So let's look at demographics. 34.45% are white, 51.46% is black, 1.4% is Asian, 7.71% is American Indian, and 2.93% is mixed race, and then 2.05% is other race. And let's look at the income index. Income per capita here in Laurinburg is $33,027. The median household income here in town is $44,308. As you see, once again, very similar to Maxton, those numbers are well below the North Carolina and the national averages. And as we scroll down a little bit further, very similar to Maxton, not as high, the poverty rate is still shockingly high here at 36.7%, which blows away North Carolina's 16.8 and the national at 15.1. So that's definitely a pretty big problem here, is the poverty. Now, the next thing that is very different from Maxton is the crime rate. The crime rate here in Laurinburg is 6,936 people will experience a crime per 100K. But to simplify that, I like to just kind of do it like this. That means pretty much 6.9 people, or 7 people out of 1,000 people, will find crime here in this town, will experience it. And then when we look at the percentages, they really paint the picture for you. The total crime is 227% above the national average here. And the violent crime is 427% above the national average. And the property crime is 186% above the national average. And right here on the corner of Gill Street and Railroad Street is a very interesting site. You just have a train car sitting right here. And I wonder if this at one time used to be the area where the old train depot used to sit. Possibly. This is really a cool idea. I like this because look at this pretty lush grass area they got here. They got like a little park, a little pavilion. They can have like little concerts out here. Look at this stage. This is cool. And they use the train, the cart itself to actually work as like a backstop of the stage. I like that. That's pretty neat. I wonder if that door actually opens and people can like come out and perform and everything. Probably not, but nonetheless, this is a beautiful little location right here. Love the grass, the sod. Very, very nicely done. And right here at this realty company, they have some murals on the side of their wall. Sam Jones, Dizzy Gillespie, and Charlie Scott for the North Carolina Tar Heels. I'm thinking they're probably from this area. Okay, and I made my way across the railroad tracks. I'm over here on North Main Street and East Bizzle Street. And look at this old place. I don't know what this used to be, but it is epic. That is so very cool right there. That is really awesome. These old buildings over here just across the train track is pretty neat to see. It's called Gwen's Creative Alterations. It's about all I can make up from that, and that's closed. So that is a functioning business. All right, I was just speaking to a local guy here, and he said back in the day this was actually a motel, and then it turned into a restaurant called Mildred's. And unfortunately, it has not been open in quite some time. He said it actually dated back, he thinks back in the 80s is about the time it ended up closing down. So it's always good when some local folks give you a little 411, tell you a little bit about some of the history, historic buildings, etc. here in the area. And this right here is another abandoned storefront here. It was called B&B Radiator. So they would do radiator repairs here. And that's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, what's the old saying? Just point your camera and state the obvious. Yeah, that works for me too. Okay, so I'm continuing on, just finishing off my video here. I've made my way, I'm actually walking on Big Street, on the 100 block of Big Street. And I want to show this store because this has something to do with the railroad. And this is really, really cool. This old brick structure right here. This was the general offices of the Laurinburg and Southern Railroad. That is a nice piece of history right there. That is cool. I love that ghost sign up there, man. That is so awesome. All right, my friends, I think that is going to pretty much wrap it up for me today here in Laurinburg, North Carolina. A lot of fun today. I enjoyed my visit to Maxton, Laurinburg, and the Maxton, Laurinburg airport over there, the jump zone for the U.S. Army. Back in the day, that was really cool. Got to show you those old abandoned airliners. A lot of people don't even realize those are over there. They drive down Interstate 74 from Charlotte to Wilmington probably all the time going to the beach or just traveling. They don't even realize just a couple miles off the interstate is that little jewel that you can very easily see if you just take the back road. You can go check it out and see it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So all that being said, I'm done today. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I am the Hitchhiking Yeti, and I will see you in my next adventure. Y'all stay safe, and I hope to see you all again soon.